voice of the Lord that says we are in his likeness and we are in his image is anti-God, is antichrist. Why? Because we are made in the image of God. Bwana Yesu apewe sifa. Therefore, you need to know, if you are like God, if your form is like God, if your facial structure is like God, if your identity is like God, if your personality and if your character is like God, then God has a mandate with you. Bwana Yesu apewe sifa. And this one includes also your weaknesses. Those things you see as our weaknesses. God need not bring them there for nothing, because God uses your weaknesses to glorify who he is over your life. Praise be to God. Therefore, even that thing that you see is a weakness. That thing that you see is like what Paul says, a thorn in my flesh that continues to buffer me, continues to put me down. God uses this as a form to glorify himself. And children of God, this issue of identity and who you are comes all the way from Genesis to Revelation. And we see that Abraham, God took a normal man, Abraham, in a normal situation, and had to change his name from Abraham to Abraham. And it not only changed his name, he also changed his GPS code. And that is what happens when God meets you and decides to change your name. It doesn't only touches your name, but it touches everything around you. Praise be to the name of the Lord. Knowing who you are. Who are you? And that is what we want to look at in the next few minutes. So therefore, when God meets with Abraham and changes his name, he tells him that I will bring forth a new generation unto you. They will be my people and I will be them. They will be identified by the mark of mine. I will bless them and I will multiply your name, and these people will be Israel. And we see that the children of Israel are like us today. They forgot who they are. And they started submitting and being seduced by idols. They started going away from what the Lord had already proclaimed. That they are blessed. They have the mark of God over their life. They are created in the image of God. They are worshiping none, but only one God. They forgot and they started being seduced by other idols. And Bible says that when they forgot that, they started opening themselves to attack to so many enemies. They were being attacked everywhere with so many enemies. And that is the Bible verse I want us to read. And then we are going to pray. When the Israelites forgot who they are, they did not align themselves to God. God meets with one person in the book of Judges. When the Israelites had forgotten who they are, and they were already running away from the enemies, the Midianites are already on their back. They are being pursued and being followed by the Midianites. God meets with the one person. And before we read the book of Judges, I want you to know that the Midianites had already done a lot of physical education, what I call PE, or what Ram calls ping pong. The enemy had already done ping pong with them. And at this point, there is Israelites who were God's chosen people, who had the mark of God, are running from the same people who God had already given them in their hands. Judges chapter 6, from verse 11 to verse 12. And I will read it. The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon, say Gideon, tell your name Gideon, was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior. The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." I cannot get over the fact that the Lord keeps on coming for us. You know Gideon from the Bible. You know Gideon, that Gideon was the one who actually fought with 300 men. We know Gideon fought with 300 men against the Midianites, 140,000 men. And most of the time we normally jump to the lessons and we normally jump to see at the wars that Gideon was fighting with the Midianites. And we forget these two verses that actually defined who Gideon was. These two verses, when the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, it transformed him, and that is what made him to also win the battles. Bwana Yesu apewe sifu. I cannot get over the fact that where we are, the Lord keeps on coming to appear to us. Bible says the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon. And in Hebrew, this is what we call Malek Yahweh. It means that God comes, descends from his throne, and comes and meets with you in that situation. It means that this situation is very dire. This situation is very gross that he has to come himself. Malek Yahweh has to come himself. The situation needs God himself to be there. And the angel of the Lord comes and meets with Gideon. And when he meets with Gideon, things totally change. Praise be to God. Who are you in the presence of God? When he meets with Gideon, circumstances change. And this is the Malek Yahweh that we are talking about. He met with him and transformed everything that was important, and transformed every war that was there, even with their and transformed every war that was there, even with their Midianites. So when Gideon was seated and met Malek Yahweh, the power of God, and we're talking about the God who has made you and I, the God who this morning just tilted the universe in such a way that everybody was able to see the sun today. The God who today at night will know every star in heaven, every galaxy he has created. The God who has the power and authority. That is who we call Malek Yahweh. And this God who has every authority, just the same way he descended and appeared to Gideon, he can be able to meet you as well, even in your circumstances. Praise be to God. So he meets with Gideon. The angel of the Lord comes and meets with Gideon. And one thing that is done, he did not only meet with Gideon, he also met with Elijah. Bible says that Elijah is now escaping. Elijah is now escaping because his life is under danger. Elijah is now escaping because he wants to be killed. Bwana Yesu apewe sifa. And this man who wants to be killed, he has forgotten that he already won a battle. He has forgotten that he raised the widow's son. He has forgotten that there was a context of the gods with a small g of Baal amongst his God. And when the context was there, Elijah made an altar. And the God honored him, appeared to him, honored him, even with a sacrifice. And it was known that let no one be worshipped apart from the God of Elijah. Elijah forgets and starts running for his life when he was told that he was going to be killed. And when he is in the wilderness, he has forgotten who he is. He has forgotten the power of the Lord and the power God was using to manifest himself. And Elijah starts mentioning things like, God, take my life. Enough is enough, I am tired. And the Lord meets with him. And the Lord asks him, Elijah, what are you doing here? Elijah, you are a servant of God. You have forgotten that we won a battle amongst all the other small gods. You have forgotten who you are. What are you doing here? It was not, what authority do we hold as children of God? You have decided to settle for less because you don't know who you are. You have decided to settle for less because you don't know you are a chosen generation. You are a royal priesthood. You are not living in fear. You have already been salvaged and redeemed by the blood of Jesus Christ. And once you know that you've already been redeemed, you are ransomed by the blood that speaketh better than the blood of Abel, than the blood and every powers and principalities of darkness. You will not be in your hiding place. You will take your full position as the daughter and the son of Christ and say that I am called by his name. I have the mark of the cross in my name. I am a royal priesthood. I have the power and authority that lives in me. I am a co-heir with Jesus Christ. You will know who you are and you will take your position. Bwana Yesu apewe sifa. The angel of the Lord appeared. Malek Yahweh appears. And when Malek Yahweh appears, he touches every aspect of your life. He meets and comes and meets with Gideon. And he not only meets with Gideon, He did not only meet with Elijah, he also met with Moses. Moses, forgetting who he is and being raised in the king's house, he's already doing chores and work. He's already in a career that he never signed up to. He's a shepherd. We are talking about somebody who was raised in a kingship, in a royal family, embracing himself with thrones. He's already in a career that he never signed off. And even in the wilderness where Moses is doing the shepherding, Malek Yahweh appears. And I want to remind you this wonderful morning, even in your wilderness, where you think God cannot come, God is in that burning bush. God is in that burning bush. Even in your wilderness, where you are crying and tears are in your pillow, mommy and daddy cannot understand it. Your spouse that you even share the same blanket with cannot know because he or she is sleeping and you are busy crying in that wilderness. Even in your wilderness, when the enemy is against you, Malek Yahweh appears. Who are you? He appears to remind us who we are in his kingdom. Bwana Yesu apewe sifa. So he not only appears to Gideon, he not only appears to Elijah, he not only appears to Moses, but he also appears to the Hebrew men. You are in a fire. You are always getting into the situation. When you think you've already won this, another battle comes in. When you think you've already won this, another battle comes in. And you're in a so much fiery place that you need the presence of Malek Yahweh. And you can be able to testify, just like the three Hebrew men testified, that I can be in every situation in the fiery place, but I can get out even not smelling with the smoke, because Malek Yahweh did not get me into that situation, but he was there. He appeared in that situation. Praise be to God. Who are you? Can you be able to take the power? Can you be able to take the authority and be active in the person that you are? And I love what the Bible says in verses 12. 11 says that the angel of the Lord, 11, where is 11? The angel of the Lord came and sat with Gideon. Verses 12 says, the angel of the Lord appeared. The angel of the Lord came. Verses 12 said, the angel of the Lord appeared. Meaning that he did not just come and parted. He came and sat with Gideon under the shed where he was hiding. When the Malek Yahweh comes and appears and sits with you, he knows every detail. He's not just a color there. He's not just, I've come, I've passed and I've gone. He comes and sits with you. And when he sits with you, he knows every details to the granular form. Every details of your life. That which you think you are hiding, he knows. That which you are doing in the dark room, he knows. That which you think that nobody knows, he knows. That is why David sings a song and says in Psalms that where can I run from you, O Lord? In heaven, you are there. When I lay my bed of depths, you are there. Where can I run away from you, Lord? You know. So Bible says in verses 12 that he appeared to God. And when he appeared, Gideon's eyes were opened. Gideon did not know that the Lord is there. He came. But 12 says, when he appeared, Gideon now realized, aha, nyasachi nisechenika. Bwana Yesu apewe sifa. Gideon's eyes were opened. It doesn't mean that the Lord was not there. The Lord was there, but his eyes needed to be opened. I've said over and over again that I've been raised in utter poverty. And television was one of the things that was very, how can I say, was a privilege for us to have. So much so that I said, when I get my first job, I will buy a big TV and compensate for all the televisions that I never saw in my childhood. I will buy a big TV and I will watch. I will watch. I will watch. And indeed, when I got my first job at 24 years, I went and bought that big television. And I bought the TV and I set it in my living room. And I called the DSTV guys to come and fix everything so that I can be able to watch. And sitting in my living room in space, watching my television, I was used to, then when I used to watch the neighbor's television, I could only see 3 or TV station. But this time around, when the cable people came and connected, I could see, and they gave me the remote and told me press guide. I could be able to see so many channels popping in. And I realized that there are people who are already enjoying this privilege of DSTV because they had the right hookup. It doesn't mean that all these years that these channels were not there. They were there. They only had the right hookup to be able to watch Super Sport, to be able to